Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper. And as promised, I'm back with another card using the Golden Greenery stamp set. If you haven't watched my other video, there is a simple stamping video using this. So this is the stamp set. It's an online exclusive. It comes with a set of dies, and it has some lovely design series paper and some gorgeous vellum, and those are what we're going to be using today. So this is the card that I've already made. It's a Z-fold card, so when it's open it stands like that, and you've got this sort of square in the middle. It folds flat, so it fits into a C6 envelope, which is the standard size. And I've used both the designer series paper and the vellum on this card. So the designer series paper is here in the background. It's gold foiled on one side, and then the vellum is just lovely. The white berries for the mistletoe really show up well on here, and then I've done a different technique for the two-step stamping that's involved in this card, so, or in the stamp set I should say. So I'm going to put this to one side and I will get started and tell you what I've used. So first things first, the base card is half of a sheet of Mossy Meadow that is cut in half lengthways. So if you are in the UK, this is half of an A4 sheet, so you cut it in half at 10.5 centimetres from the top to the bottom. If you're using a letter-sized sheet, if you're in the US or anywhere else watching, if you are, hi, and it should work the same with half of your sheet as well. You might just have to jiggle the measurements a little, but it should still work. Okay, now what I've done is I've basically scored it in half. So it's been scored at 14.8, and then I have scored the left-hand side of the card again in half, which is basically 7.4 centimetres. Again, if your card is a slightly different size, you can fold it in half and then fold the front back on itself. And that gives us that Z there. Okay, so that's the base. And then we need the strip to make the Z fold along the front. So again, this is the entire length of an A4 sheet, and it's cut at 5 centimetres wide. It's scored at 14.8 and then again at 7.4. And then that will fit on our card across the front, like that. Hopefully that makes sense, and that makes our square in the middle. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've cut myself the bits and pieces of paper. I figured you don't need to watch me cutting things up. So the first thing we're going to do is a little bit of stamping, and that's going to go on the inside of the card. And this is going to go in here, and I know that you can only see the Merry Christmas, and there is some decoration behind there as well, but obviously when it's stood open you can see it, which is why I don't like to leave that part of the card blank. So the first thing we're going to do is bring in our Mossy Meadow, and I have a stamp. What have I done with it? This is what happens when you have a messy desk. There we go. So I've got the Merry Christmas stamp, and that is out of the Reindeer Fun. On the last card I videoed, we did actually stamp it in Cherry Cobbler. This time we're doing it in Mossy Meadow. Now it just fits. So we want it more towards the top of the piece of Whisper White cardstock. There you can see, and that is going to fit inside here like so. So this piece of Whisper White, must stop calling it that, it used to be Whisper White, basic white cardstock, is 7 centimetres across, and it's 10 centimetres down. Now this is the technique I wanted to show you. I mean, you do have to make sure you clean your stamps really carefully in between, because I've just noticed I've transferred ink from one to the other. So we're going to use this leafy one. Now I'm using, this isn't something that Stampin' Up sells, but as far as I'm aware it's still available. I've had this a long time. I wanted some gold because the designer series paper has got a lot of gold in it, and I wanted something that was going to reflect that to do our stamping with. So this is an Encore Ultimate Metallic in gold, and I'm just going to ink that up. Years ago, Stampin' Up did sell a gold, a silver and a copper in a different make, but unfortunately I never had the gold. So I am going to stamp that across the middle there at a bit of an angle, and hopefully you can see, oh, that's got a bit of a shimmer. I'm not sure if that's picking up on there. Hopefully it is. I'm going to pop that back on there because I'm really messy. And then I've got the other step of that image. Now what I have found is you do really need to let this gold piece dry. It's like a lot of metallic inks, and it takes quite a lot longer to dry. Otherwise you're going to end up with gold ink on your green ink pad, which is not ideal. So I've just cleaned it off, so I know it's nice and clean, but what's been happening, it's fine when I ink it, but then when I stamp it, it picks up some of the gold. So just make sure you clean it in between if you're doing more than one image. And obviously make sure you clean it afterwards. So what I'm going to do is just line that up with my base image the best I can. And stamp that mossy meadow on there. And hopefully you can see, you get that bit of the gold shimmer in there. So I'm just going to give that. Now I am using a baby wipe, and I don't normally condone using baby wipes on your stamps, especially the what used to be red rubber, but the photopolymer ones can stand up to a little bit more cleaning. So, and to obviously make sure we've got all that gold off there. And if I show you the stamp, look, that's how much gold is left on there from me inking it up. Now, if I'm probably tempting fate doing this, but I'm just going to see if I can line that up again and give it another little bit of gold on there. It's not too bad. Anyway, just going to clean this off. It wipes off fine with a baby wipe, but obviously do make sure that if you're stamping this image more than once, you wipe off the gold in between, inking up with the green. Okay, so I'm just going to put those to one side. That dirty baby wipe in the general direction of the bin. Okay, so this piece is going to go in here. So I'm just going to use some good old Tombow. Obviously use whatever you prefer, whether it's tape runner, tear and tape. I just prefer Tombow because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so that is going to fit in here. And the Tombow just means it gives me a little bit of space to jiggle it about a bit before it grips properly. Okay, so that's that one. So then what I've done is I've cut some designer series paper. So, I mean, you can see how shiny this one is. And if we go back to the other one that I had, that's got, there we go. That's got quite a lot of gold in it as well. Okay, so I've cut these to fit on these panels. So this one is cut at 10 centimetres by 14.3, and that's going to go in there. And I think I might have cut this one a little bit short, but it'll be fine. Okay, and obviously these are cut from 12 by 12 sheets, so do remember, if you are, yeah, it's a little bit short, but it's okay, it's going to stand at that angle. If you're cutting from 12 by 12 sheets that have a directional pattern, make sure you get it the right way up. There's nothing more annoying than cutting it all up to find you've cut it sideways. Ask me how I know. Okay, and this piece is going to go on here. Like so. So that's our base. Just going to remove this stamp mat now we've done our stamping. When you're using a photopolymer stamp set, it's always a good idea to have a stamp mat underneath so you've got a bit more cushion. Okay, now I've gone ahead and I've cut some of the vellum. Now, if you wanted to see the different patterns that these papers and the vellums come in, If you look for my unboxing video, which should be below this one, or maybe below another one, you'll find it a few videos back anyway. If you have a look at that, then I do run through the designer series papers that are in the pack. Now, if you're using vellum ordinarily, plain vellum, everything shows through. Glue, dimensionals, because it is semi-transparent. Because this is patterned vellum, if I'm careful with where I put my glue, I can hide it behind the green bits. And our Tombow does dry clear, so long as you don't put on a gallon of it, you can get away with it. You might just have to be a little bit creative with where you put the glue. So I'm basically just going, ordinarily I'd just go do like you just saw me do, but this time I'm being a little bit more careful, and I'm just dotting it where we've got some colour showing on there. Okay, and so that long piece is going to obviously fit on the long piece. Okay, and then we've got two more pieces that are going to fit on here and here. Now, if I'm cutting things out of a strip, I do quite like to make sure that they match up. And this piece is a little bit long, so I'm just going to trim that down in a second. But I'll put this next piece on. Again, I'm just dotting the glue where the greenery is. You can actually buy tape runners that are specifically for vellum that are supposed to disappear. And I have got one somewhere, but I can never remember what I've done with it. Do you know what? I've cut that a little bit long, I think. Yeah, I have. So this is the beauty of glue. I can trim that down a little bit. Now, if you're going to cut something by eye, like I'm going to do here, if you use a long pair of scissors, it's easier to get a straight edge because you can do it in one slice rather than moving your scissors. That's better. There we go. That's on there. And then I'm just going to have to trim this piece down. I don't know what's going on with my cutting. But again, use a long pair of scissors and then you can line it up and do it in one snip. Okay, and again, we're just going to hide the glue. I don't know what it's like which part of the world you're in, but here in the UK, in this, the east where I live, it's turned really chilly. It's been okay during the day, but it's morning and night, it's been very cold. Hence me having a cardigan on, which the sleeves keep falling down on. Okay. All right, and that piece is just going to go on the end there. There we go. And those pieces do actually line up pattern-wise. So think about how you're cutting it. Right, now this piece has got to be attached to this piece here. And we're going to attach it slightly up. And again, I know that you then can't see that, but you will when it's stood up. So we just need to attach it at this end and this end. Now, you can use glue, but I'd like this to stand out a little bit more. This isn't the kind of card that's going to go in the post. So I'm going to use some dimensionals. Okay, so always use up your edges of your dimensionals. I'm just going to stick those on there and those on there. Just going to pop my thumbnail, push my thumbnail down into the middle of the dimensionals, which makes it easier for me to lift the toppings because my fingers are very sticky. I don't know if you're like me, I always get in a terrible mess with glue. Doesn't matter how good the bottle is, how fine the nib is, I seem to manage to get it all over my fingers. Okay, right. Okay, and then what we're going to do is attach it to our card. So the best thing I've found to do is to open the card out flat, offer up the left-hand side first, and then you can line up the right-hand side and make sure we've got an even distance at the bottom. There we go, and that's our card. So there's the square in the middle. You can see the stamping on there. And then what I'm going to do is put a panel on the back here. Now, I do quite often stamp. Shall I do it? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to ink up my... Oh, gosh, that was one went on the floor. I'm going to ink up my gold. And we're going with the same direction as inside the card. Oh, excuse me, guys. All right. So that's our gold one. And then I'm going to bring in the Mossy Meadow, ink that up, and then line it up on top of the first image we stamped. So remember to go straight down and straight up if you don't want to smudge it. Let's get rid of those ink blocks out of the way, and then I'm just going to grab a baby wipe again. I know what I'm like, and I'll end up putting that stamp away without getting the gold off it properly. I always try and remember to clean my stamps as soon as I've used them, which I appreciate is probably very boring for you to watch, but I make sure that I remember to do it. Okay, so again, a little bit of trusty Tombow on the back. And this gives us somewhere to write. Now, I could have put a greeting, but I've already put a greeting on the inside of the card. You could put a different greeting on if you wanted to. But again, I like plenty of room to write. Okay, that's that. So that's on the back there for us to write our greeting. And there's the front of the card. So let me just bring the other one back in. So I have used the same vellum on both cards, but I've used different designer series paper on both cards. Other than that, they're pretty much identical. And as I said, we've put that white panel on the back so that you can write on it. Okay, hope you like the card. I hope you'll give it a go. Any questions, drop me a line. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Happy stamping.